Thank you, Mark, and Sasha. That was great. I'd like to thank my 4 advisors, Jody, Matthew, Mark, and Sasha. I've learned a lot while I was here. Is the sound okay? Yes. Okay. And I don't really explain anything about my poems, so sorry, they're just going to be here. The first one is called Greatest Hits. My dad dictated group therapy notes into his handheld recorder with tiny little tapes. And before bed, he let me play his CDs in the other room, dancing around in a skirt made of tulle, singing along to Van Morrison's husky, deep voice. I remember the cover of his greatest hits was just a silver, old-fashioned microphone. No photo of Van sitting on a stool in front of cafe tables or sweating under the lights of a stadium. So I pictured him as a distinguished black man who wore button-down sweaters and loafers, his tight afro graying at the temples. When I found out in high school that Van was not black but Irish, my dad told all his friends. I had thought I knew Van, that we had shared secret moments in the summer, with the screen door keeping out the mosquitoes, or watching my dog on her back revel in the cold of snow. Neither Van nor my dad had thought to inform me of the way things really were, that I was wrong, assumed I would know somehow. This is 70% chance of storm in Hamilton, New York. If it rains, I sit in my chair on the porch. If it rains, the water boils. If it rains, I make green tea. If it rains, you are with her in Vermont on her roof in the park against the wall. If it rains, her shirt gets wet. If it rains, her bangs stick to her face. If it rains, her mascara smears, and she doesn't care. If it rains hard, if it rains fast, if it rains and fits in gasps, I wouldn't find out until the barista down the street told me 2 years later. If it rains, the kettle whistles. If it rains, I find a mug. If it rains, I sit on the porch with tea. This one is called Knowing Crickets. That last morning, half awake, I rolled over to an arm touching mine, and I could not remember if I was with you or with him. Outside, dry snowflakes piled in corners at the window. I could feel the cold air sneaking across my face. I knew we were in my bed, could hear my chameleon scratching in her tank, looking for the ghostly crickets covered in white protein powder, trying to find a way out of the glass. I was convinced that if I opened my eyes, you would see what I was hiding, that I was never actually studying, in fact failing half my classes, because I left you each night after watching another romantic movie on your uneven futon, my legs across your lap, to wait outside in the dark for him to let me in the back door, kick out his roommate, fuck in his loft until 3, and sleep through my class the next day. Lying in bed with an arm against mine, I tried to remember the night before, which movie I'd seen, what midnight snack I'd eaten, whose clothes might be lying on the carpet. I took a deep breath in, hoping my stomach knew the difference between your skin and his. Then finally, your stubby hair that I had cut before Sunday dinner with your parents brushed against my face, and I knew that I needed to tell you. This is a little one. It's called Or Not. When I said I love you, it slipped out between my 2 rows of teeth like a cat through the door with my foot in it as I sign for a package from UPS and don't want to be rude but yell anyway and run after it even though I know I won't catch up and will have to wait until dinner when the smell of food draws it back, or not. Sonata in E minor. After White Russians and a house party, we sluggishly groped in your bed on Valentine's Day, pretending your roommate couldn't hear. The next morning, showering in my apartment after sneaking out your back door, I saw the bruises you had left on my breasts, Purpled fingertips ringed around the tissue as though you had played a dramatic chord, held piano keys down, waited beyond the stillness of the strings until your breathing drowned out the hum of hammers. Their notes held the day after when we went skiing with my boyfriend and he said what a great guy you were, looked you in the eye through the rearview mirror. They echoed in the hot tub, barely covered by a striped bikini. They lingered when he passed out at a party, when you and I carried him to bed, took his shoes off. Lingered when I told him I was too tired, that I was turning in early, and kissed him goodnight on the cheek. They remained yellow and green even after I broke up with him, after I understood what you and I really were, just something to hold on to while the music moved past, when it fades quietly behind the other notes and is gently released, the way you never notice when a bruise disappears and sometimes forget how they got there at all. This is revisionist. When I went up north to your father's house, where you were staying that summer, you treated me to tacos from a cart downtown. And on the way there, we passed an old mental institution, state-run until the 60s or 70s when it was shut down, equipment sold, patients dispersed. Through a broken window, its bars still intact, anchored to brick, I saw twin mattresses piled up, seersucker pattern fuzzy and stained behind jagged glass, a beer bottle or two. I pulled my sleeves down to cover the goosebumps as I thought of those locked inside, pissing themselves in the hallway, arms and legs held to bed rails, minds strapped down with paralysis. It may have been a good time to confess my struggles with depression, the psychiatrist, pills, cutting, suicide attempts. You were changing the radio station. I decided it was not the time, maybe later, after dinner, or when we got back to school in the fall. The hospital looked so familiar, I knew I had stopped there as a child, stepped out of the minivan, up crumbling steps, wiped dirt off windows, felt the same eerie breeze on my shoulders. But you assured me there was no way this could be true. I'd said I had never been to this town before, hadn't I? Besides, this was a road only locals drove on, the secret way back to town. And I believed you, let it go, rolled the window down, warm air on my skin. After the harvest. My boyfriend's suit didn't fit right as he practiced his best man speech, taking the papers out of his back pocket, disappearing into the cherry orchard under the heavy branches. It was late August, so the harvest would be over. The migrant workers moved on, only the drooping, rotting bunches left, and the mattresses piled up in cabins that we would sleep on later, drunk, buzzing from the music, the dancing, the coke, our lives not changing. Where we would wake up too early to the sun between the boards, hungover, and I would find a children's book in Spanish in the corner when I retrieved my dress, ripped before the ceremony. A black dress and a row of black dresses, all of us, girlfriends of the groomsmen, trying to decipher what we were mourning. Before night fell, I watched as he walked between the trees, his sleeves at his elbows, and I wondered if I belonged, where I would be if he stayed forever among the rows. If I had only come a week earlier, I could have run away with the immigrant families, found another man who didn't understand the things I said, and had children together who left behind little books about bunnies when we moved. Title chart. Sometimes I wonder if he knows me better, because he has lived 34 years among the curves of a shoreline, the archings of mountains, the comings and goings of a tide, while the men before were ruled by the angles of the road, the endless stretch of fields, and the land's hard stagnancy. White night. Ambien is so tiny, smallest of the 7 pills I take, doesn't even need water to slide down, and he is good, bien. He knows that Wes cheated on me in high school with Karen, in college with Jenny, and he will allow none of them across the moat tonight. Nor my half-sister, although it's not her fault. No one told me about her until I was 18 and she was 40, but she couldn't come tonight, even if I knew where she lived. Not my dishwater hair, pale skin, zits, boobs too big, legs stubble, flabby thighs. They are not invited to this party. Not my fingers twitching to call my boyfriend, listen to the background voices, figure out which girls he's with. Rachel, Lindsay, Trisha, Becca, how drunk they seem, how happy. Not the fact I haven't written my grandma, called my parents, used my new gym membership, changed my oil, returned those shoes, or washed the dishes. Not the friends I don't have, the no one I can call, crying or laughing at midnight or noon. But oh, my faithful night Ambien, you stand guard while I sleep. I think I have 3 more. Christmas party at my ex's house. Everyone else went home, but he left me on the fraying couch, stale beer between its corduroy, a pat on the head, his sweatpants, 2 blankets, a t-shirt. Threw away the pizza box to make room for me. He went to bed, she went to bed. I put his clothes on despite myself, to spite myself, trying not to smell him in them. Because I was cold, because my jeans were uncomfortable, because I did not plan to spend the night. I sat in the dark with the big screen TV, big black TV, 57 inches, snow falling outside, chips in bags growing soft. I waited for the silence to end. It did, distinct, not muffled by the floorboards or rafters between us, again and again. In the morning, their feet on the stairs woke me. I didn't know how to leave. Listened to them in the kitchen, toast, juice, plans to go skiing sometime, soon, when the snow was good. This one is shotgun under the bed. You sound so much worse on paper. It has been 32 minutes since the pub noise drowned out your voice over the phone, which means you'll drive home drunk, fumble with the deadbolt, stumble with your shoes, and will fight. While the fridge light shines on your face and you eat chicken with zucchini wrapped in tinfoil cold without a fork. My cheeks, lips, the corners of my nose itch with dried salt. Lying in our bed in your cast-off skin, waiting. Cars pull in next door, doors slamming, which aren't you, no matter how much I want them to be, want you to join this argument that I've started. If you're not home in 3 minutes, I'll get the box out from under the bed again, chase the cat away, and scatter pictures of your exes on the bedspread like future-telling phones from a cup, until I hear your tires on the gravel and throw it back beside the empty suitcases, your shotgun, before your boots bang the porch, your keys click the lock. And this is the last one. The sinner. You should know that there's a salt mine here under Detroit, 1,200 feet beneath the Ford Theater, and its red velvet seat cushions fraying over time. Under Comerica Park, 4 closed homes selling for $5,000, and a homeless man's jacket's faux fur lining framing his cheeks. At the bottom of this shaft is a shrine to Barbara, a lit alcove behind glass for the patron saint of miners. It has been 2 years since we broke up, but I still daydream sometimes about walling you in down there, burying you alive under her robed porcelain figure, where real men would walk by every day and not know you're encased there. I would give you Cheetos that stain your fingers so you could listen to the crunch echo in your tomb as the men talked about their wives and children, the Lions game on Sunday, the price of gas. While you sat inside with 1 brick around you for every time you cheated or passed out drunk with your shoes on our bed sheets or let your mother tell people you were single. Come to think of it, even that is not enough. Let the mine collapse around you, great boulders falling from 50 floors above, dust without light to make it glitter. Or let the chute fill with hydrogen sulfide, the men's eyes tearing up, alarms and supervisors blaring, elevators crushed with people. Let Barbara save everyone but you.